successive military coups that followed, not forgetting the bloody Nigerian Civil War, and that all evolved into the Second Republic, which was also promising, but at some point it was bastardized due to economic management, election fraud, and all of that, and that gave the opportunity for another military incursion, and down to the Third Republic, which was also promising, but because of the tyrannical nature of the Nigerian military regime, it was not allowed to see the light of the day. And the struggle for democracy continued along that path, now in the Fourth Republic. And one thing we cannot take away from this Fourth Republic in terms of achievement is the fact that Nigeria as a country has experienced 26 years of uninterrupted transitioning from one civilian government to another. So all of these, by the time you sum all of this up, you begin to, the question pops up that, are we, really on the path of development? This is a question begging for an answer. And to join us in this conversation is Mrs. Titi Adegbola from the Department of General Studies, Federal University of Technology, Akure. Good morning, Mrs. Titi. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Good morning, sir.
Okay.
It's my pleasure to be here to discuss this topic, because it's a topic that should be considered when you are discussing the issue of development in Nigeria, whether political development, economic development, or technological development. If we do not consider our history, we cannot forge ahead.
Obviously.
Because from the definition of history, history is the study of the past in order to be able to, make strategic plans for the future. Now, for the father of history, Herodotus, who brought about the study of history, the reason he studied history is because he needed to study history in order to know the philosophy of his people, in order to know how the society developed to the present time that it was at that time. So for Nigeria to move forward, we must consider our history, whether political history, economic history, or technological history.
Okay, thank you for that word of advice. Maybe we should begin our reflection with this, the amalgamation of Nigeria in 1914.
Yes.
And the objective was, in the wisdom of the colonial master, was to create a kind of economic balance cut across the regions. And to this extent now, can we say that amalgamation, is it effective? How effective? How has it shaped our development? Or probably a lot of people are already agitating that it should be nullified completely. What's your take on that?
Well, my take on that is that this thing is very, very tricky.
Okay.
Now, as somebody who has read a bit of history, I would say that the colonial masters did us a lot of evil. Because when you look at the pre-colonial
evil in what
history,
sense? Okay.
evil in bringing different people with different developments, different civilizations over the years together, over generations together. Because when you study Africa, because they start in Berlin in 1884 and just divided Africa on their table without coming to Africa to study the people of Africa. Now, today, we have Yorubas in the Republic of Benin, we have Yorubas in Ghana, in Togo, in the Gambia, and Sierra Leone. Those people are scattered, and they are Yoruba people. They speak the same tongue with us, practice the same culture, but are in different nations. Why we are now mobbed together with people who do not share any historical ties with us and do not share any philosophical views with us. Now, that is the issue. One of the problems we are facing in Nigeria is because we had different historical experiences. So when the whites came and they amalgamated Nigeria and brought different nations of people together to form a country, that was what laid the foundation to all the troubles we went through. And even till today, we are still going through the trouble of the fact that we were not the same people in the past. We had different civilizations, different developments in our pre-colonial history. So in that, I would not say that the colonial masters used wisdom. I think the other wisdom they used was to put Africa perpetually under their radar to control us. And that was the reason they did what they did in 1883 in Berlin. But moving forward from the amalgamation, when you look at the template of governance that the British gave us, which was a parliamentary template system, That should have helped us to grow, because when you study the United Kingdom today, you will realize that it is the same system they are practicing, and they have grown through that.
So before we even get to that, I want us to, go now to the First Republic now.
Okay.
The agitation of the founding father. Eventually, the independence came, and can we now say, with just opposing it with our level of development now, can we say the intentions of the founding father and the vision they envisage is well justified? What's your take on that? As
Well,
you speak now.
when you look at the founding fathers of Nigeria, you would realize that all of them had different visions. Now, let's take Baba Awolowo. I've done a bit of study on Baba Awolowo to understand his political ideology. And the political ideology of Baba Awolowo was, he had a foundation in Nigeria is a different nation, so people put together. So we can be in a confederacy. You be on your own, I be on my own, and we will grow together. That was what was behind his political ideology and the regional system we practiced in the First Republic while they were agitating for the independence. Now, when you see the growth that Nigeria as a nation had during the regional system, and you compare to what is happening today, you would realize that we had a better growth in the First Republic under the regional system than we have now, because then they will go to the parliament, they will discuss every political issue and our political progress, and action will be taken based on the discussion they had in the parliament. And that was what laid the foundation for what we are experiencing today in Nigeria. So I think that the founding fathers, they were able to achieve a lot of development as foundation for us, that all the events that happened later scuttled. That's what I believe.
Okay, are you saying now the parliamentary system of government is far better than the presidential system of government we are practicing?
Yes, that's what if you study the progress that was in the Western region, the progress, the leaders that led all these regions in the First Republic, you would realize that, for instance, the Southwest had great development during that parliamentary system than we have now. Yes, there is no system of government without its issues. So what we experienced then were just issues that came with any kind of system of government. But the parliamentary system is far better than the presidential system we are using now.
Okay, now let's talk about the incursion of military in Nigerian politics. It dates back to the First Republic.
Yes.
How will you say, in what way the regime of the military hindered development in Nigeria, or possibly helped development in Nigeria? Now,
I have two perspectives on the regime of the incursion of the military. Now, the first perspective is that the military did us a lot of evil, but they were able to achieve discipline while they were in power. But they also did a lot of they did us a lot of evil because they scuttled our development, which was on a very good progress. It was progressing, scuttling it, and issuing a decree to nullify the regions and put us together under a unitary system was the greatest evil that could ever happen to any nation that was on the path of growth. So in that, the military did a lot of evil.
In what way?
Now, the coup of 1966, January 15, 1966. When you study the coup, a lot of views are on the coup today that, the coup is this, the coup is not that. But when you study the coup, I'm not going to say some things. When you study the coup, what do you feel as a Yoruba person, as a Hausa person? There are leaders who were, the cream de la cream of their society. Officer May Malari was one of the best officer that the Nigerian military could offer. Tafawa Balewa, have you heard of the speech of Tafawa Balewa? Tafawa Balewa was a polished man that
I saw it
that the North
produced. Yes.
And these people were unalived. They were destroyed. Amadou Bello, the Sardauna, was a very exceptional man. These people were unalived, and the ones in the Southwest, Baba Akintola, Okotie Ebo, these people were finished, while the ones from the Southeast were let were left. Azikwe just traveled and remained there, even when his assistant came back. Michael Opara was let go the same way. It was the same situation that happened to Tafawa Balewa in Lagos.
But sorry to cut into your flow. If you are not holding brief for the coup plotters, but if you listen to the hint the coup based on the fact that some of those people you mentioned were actually promoting disunity in the country and as well mismanaging resources.
How were they promoting disunity?
No, I'm just asking. That was
okay.
Somebody
That's
like the likes of Ezego Kaduna.
Yes.
He made mention of the fact that these are promoters. They are sowing the seed of discourse among the people of Nigeria.
Now,
that was actually initiated the coup.
That has always been what they claimed.
Okay.
But let's look at the time frame. When the coup happened and those people were unalived, they didn't claim what they claimed immediately. It took time before they started claiming different things, and they claimed different things. The first one, they claimed that the coup was done to release Awolowo from prison. Even when you study the coup, you realize that they didn't even make provision for officers to be at Calabar where Awolowo was held in order for him to be released. Now they claimed that they were promoting disunity. Now who promoted disunity more than Azikwe with his West African pilot? Now the first groups to form their ethnic pressure group in Nigeria were the Igbos and the Northerners, before the Egbe Omo Odua was formed. Now, when Ogbe Omo Odua was formed, after these two groups had formed their own pressure group, West African pilot started attacking the Yoruba leaders, saying that, hey, see what they did, they are being tribalistic, they are doing this. Now, isn't that a promotion of disunity? Because now the Igbos are always accusing Akintola and Sardauna of promoting disunity, and that was what led to the coup. What Azikwe did with his West African pilot, even before Sardauna and Akintola said what they said in 1961? What was that? That's number one. Number two, these people were mismanaging. Were the Eastern political class, were they not also mismanaging the resources? Or were they saints? Because if you said that, okay, these people were corrupt and we should unalive all of them, why did you let go your own people that were politicians and that were corrupt?
But mind you, Azikwe was not around during the coup.
But Michael Opara was around. Some other Igbo political leaders were around.
So many of the northern officials were also the political officers were not included.
Who are these people?
I don't want to mention them now, but
now let's talk about the strategic unaliving of these people.
Okay.
Now, Officer May Malari, see, this is what happened in that coup. The coup was to take out the greatest political leaders of the other regions and their greatest officers. May Malari was the greatest officer to have come from the north. He was the only one who could command the Nigerian army, nobody else. He had all the tactics, he had all the arsenals, in his care as that officer. Now, study the life of Ademulego. Ademulego was the officer in charge of the Nigerian armory. And all these people were taken out. That was a strategic thing. It was a strategic coup. So, look at what happened in the West. Akintola was the premier. They took him out. Okoti Ebo was finance minister. They took him out. Tafawa Balewa was the prime minister. What you do not know is that in the First Republic, Tafawa Balewa, as a prime minister in a parliamentary system, the prime minister is the most powerful man, not the president. And this is what was discovered, that the president was just ceremonial.
Okay.
The prime minister was a man with the power. And they took out the man with the power and all the premiers of the other regions and left their own, the leaders of their own region. That was what was.
So going by your sentiment now, are you saying the counter coup of July 1966 was justified?
Well, I would not say it was justified. But you should pay attention to the fact that the North, you go study the North, you would realize that the North will not sit back and allow anybody to unalive their leaders and they will keep quiet. That the Yorubas kept quiet and they didn't retaliate does not mean that the North will do the same thing. So that's what we should. I do not agree that this counter coup should have been done. But after the coup of January 1966, see what happened afterwards. See the taunting of the Hausa people all across Nigeria. There was this music that was done, Egu Nama Bia, something like that, by this Celestine, one of their whatever. Then they made that music. They made flyers. They put Sardauna down and put the leg of Uzeogu on his neck to show that, oh, we had conquered these people. Because the Sardauna, it was the Sardauna of Sokoto. It was not just the premier. It was the Sardauna. It was a controller of their region. Both religiously, you have to look at the fact that the North, it's an Islamic society. So the Sardauna was not just a premier, it was an Islamic leader. So for you to do that to the Sardauna, you have just shown the Muslims in the North that you have conquered them. Then you have shown the Hausa, Fulani, and all the empires in the North, El Kanemi Empire, the Hausa, 7 Hausa kingdoms, the Sultan, the Sultanate, that you have conquered them. They will not stomach that. And that was what led to the counter coup. Though it is not justified, but it was instigated.
Okay, now let's move on. Yes, now let's go to the Second Republic now. Military handed over power to civilian government in 1979.
Yes.
Precisely. And now, at some point, there were accusation of election fraud, economic mismanagement, and all like that. What's your assessment of the Second Republic, given the fact that which eventually paved way for another military incursion? Okay.
Now, I think the Second Republic, the politicians were corrupt.
Okay.
But when you look at the Second Republic today, and you look at the First Republic, and you now compare these two republics with the Fourth Republic, can you really say that the politicians of the Second Republic that the military took over from were stupendously corrupt? Can you really say that? Now let me say this. Corruption is a part of every society.
Okay.
Corruption. The greatest of countries in the world, America, Russia, all of them, they have their corruption.
Absolutely.
They have their corruption. Now, Nigeria is not so different from all these nations. The military always, coming into our political life is one of the issues that was wrong with the foundation of Nigeria. They truncated the First Republic. The Second Republic, they truncated it. Now, even before we got to the Second Republic, some small clandestine information, secretive information, had it that Muhammad, what's the name of this man from Kano? What's the name of the man that was unalived in 1976 by Dimka?
Okay, Murtala
Muhammad had the mind to return the North and to return Nigeria to the regional system. And that was what instigated what Dimka did against him. Now look at that. The unaliving of our leaders, whether through through military coup, can we call that something that is good? Without trying people, you just unalive them through military coup. Isn't that corruption? Because I can't see any corruption that is worse than that. So, if we are going to talk about corruption, I think the military leaders were more corrupt than the politicians that they accused of corruption and they took out. Because why would you resort to unaliving civilians because you wanted to correct corruption? What happens to the court?
If you say the military are more corrupt, what about the regime of Muhammadu Buhari, late Muhammadu Buhari, in the aftermath of the Second Republic? What would you say about that?
The regime of Muhammadu Buhari, we knew what happened.
At some point, a lot of people believe he actually instilled discipline into the system, and that's where he fought corruption tooth and nail. So what's your take on that?
Now, the military regime of Muhammadu Buhari was good because, yes, he fought some corruption.
Some?
Yes. And he instilled discipline. Now, the question is that can't the democratic government do the same thing through legislation? Look at America, look at all the great democracies in the world. They also achieve this same thing through legislation. So the issue with Nigerian leaders, the past Nigerian leaders, especially the military leaders, is that they were too primitive to know that democracy has to grow. You allow democracy to grow. America did not start from where they are today. They started from somewhere. They had their own issue. They had their civil war. They had the issue of the slavery that tore apart the South and the North. And they were able to navigate the terrain of all this through legislation. So are we saying that if we had allowed the Second Republic to grow, or if we had allowed the First Republic to grow, that we wouldn't have reached that point that Muhammadu Buhari reached, or even better than what Muhammadu Buhari did through legislation?
There was stopping our legislator from following that path, as you rightly said.
Because the unitary system of government is what is stopping them.
How?
All right, let me tell you how it is stopping them. Now, when we were in our regions, the western region, the eastern region, the northern region, you know, then the western region was on ethno-linguistic line. It was only the eastern region and the northern region that were not on ethno-linguistic line. And that was why the western region was the most developed of the regions. Why? Let me use this Yoruba.
Okay.
Despite that they had their own issues, they had the infighting, but the fact that there was a place they could go back to and say we are still the same people,
communal harmony, yeah.
Communal harmony, they were able to achieve development. But when you study the north and the east, and you looked at the fact that there were forces also, you know, dealing with the east then, because the eastern region was a region where the Igbos dominated the other ethnicities, and that was what led to Adakaboro after the coup, and when Aguiyi Ironsi took over after the coup. That was what led to what Adakaboro did. That he said he wanted the Ijaw nation to break away from the eastern region, the eastern region. So, what the problem with the unity system of government is that we are not the same nation from our pre-colonial history. So we had different characteristics. The north is more religious and has a system of religion that is quite different from what we have in the south. The southwest, some people will say they don't like calling it the southwest, and they prefer the western region as it used to be. Now, in the western region, we are not as religious. We still believe in our oneness through our ethnicity. Omo Yoruba ni wa, Omo Odua. That Omo Odua was a unifying factor for the Yoruba people more than religion. Now, you see the difference? The Yorubas will fight to protect their identity, their cultural identity. They will not fight on religion, and that's why you hardly hear of religious war or religious conflict in the southwest. Now, the eastern region is made up of people with different whatever. One group there wants to dominate the other. Now, all these characteristics are the ones that have been brought to the unitary system of government. And that's why now we have now imported those things from the three regions then that could easily be managed in a little conclave that we were. We have now imported it to the bigger nation of Nigeria under the unitary system. So everybody wants a share of the national cake, and so they want to use all manner of strategies to have the share. Claiming victim, still referring back to the Nigerian Civil War, claiming when you arrest people in the north who are doing terrorism, they will cry and say, oh, you are oppressing Muslims, you are doing this, you are doing that. When you arrest people from the east who are also instigating terrorism, oh, they will say you hate the Igbo nation. They will do. We keep crying victim. We keep playing, number one, the ethnic cards. We play the religious cards. Those two forces are the ones pulling at the center and destroying the unitary system.
Okay, what do you think? Now, like you rightly said, the issue of ethnicity and religion, being the cog in the wheel of progress of development in this country. So what can be done to actually overcome this? in a way that we can actually integrate Nigeria irrespective of your religion or your ethnic group. What do you think can be done in that regard?
See, let me say this. I am not saying, I don't feel that Nigeria can,
because if you look at a country like
system.
United States, for instance, there is nothing like ethnicity. It is just one united country, and that speaks volumes. That tells us the reason why they have achieved what they have achieved today.
Yes.
So what can be done? Because now without integration, there can never be development.
Yes.
So what can be done to integrate Nigeria? To rise above our political differences, religion, and on and on.
Now, the issue is that I'm sorry to say this,
Okay.
but I don't think there's anything that can be done, because many people always want to compare Nigeria to the United States. We are different.
What about changing recalibrating our orientation?
How do we recalibrate the orientation of people who have mastered the art of using ethnicity and religion as strategies to achieve a political aim and a political end? How? See, there's a difference between the United States and Nigeria. Now, you should be comparing the US with the United Kingdom. Look at the United Kingdom. They know themselves. They know their history. And that's why they can never leave the parliamentary system. You see the four nations. You see the way they interact in that United Kingdom. Now, the historical experience of the United States is quite different. Aside the American Indians, all other person in the US is a migrant to the United States. One only has power. The whites only have power through their white supremacy over the other groups. Every other person aside the Indians is a migrant. So it's a difference compared to Nigeria, where we had great empires and great kingdoms in the past. So I do not think that we should now be saying, well, let us reorientate our people. I think Nigeria needs a new constitutional conference. Okay. And in that constitutional conference, we need to renegotiate our togetherness. That is how we can talk about integration. So in renegotiating our togetherness, if we are going to still remain as a country, then we need to go back to the parliamentary system. Let each region, let's divide Nigeria into ethno-linguistic lines, and let each region have, a kind of self-autonomy on their destiny and the way they manage their resources.
Speaking of renegotiating, how do we do that? How visible is that? Given the fact that the people, who have the mandate, the oversight to initiate that, are not interested in us renegotiating. Yes. What do we do then?
Now, Jonathan achieved something in 2014, and that was a confab. Now, that confab is a kind of a constitutional conference. The only difference was that it brought people from different regions, and they called it confab. I think another.
But a lot of people see that more of collection of ideas without execution.
Yes.
What would
yes.
you say about that?
That's why I'm saying it should be a constitutional conference rather than a confab. Because when it's a constitutional conference, then it is the legislators that will meet and have the conference. Now, the legislators will not just meet. Now, what is happening in Nigeria today is because the people themselves are not educated enough to know what is at stake and to know the parameters by which Nigeria can develop. By the time we educate our people, maybe through the media, especially when you look at what is happening on the social media, we are trying to educate people that, see, this system of government we are practicing can no longer help us. So by the time we educate our people, and then we start raising our agitations and demanding from our lawmakers, we can still have that constitutional conference. We can have it. Already, there is a motion in the House of Assembly now for regionalism. Okay. They have been muting it, they've been pressing it down, but there's a motion. Another thing is that when you look at the 14 resolutions of the confab of 2014, 2 of them have been executed. Now, the local government autonomy has been executed. The change of
how
the
realistic?
national anthem. Yes, the Supreme Court has given
in practice now. How realistic?
In practice, it has already been executed because many of the people that were crying from Osun State, crying from different places recently, that funds were withheld by the federal government. Many of us did not ask questions which funds were withheld. It was actually the local government funds that were withheld, following the judgment of the Supreme Court that says that anybody who has not conducted a local government election, that is, the funds will be retained. It will not be sent into the state treasury, the state account. And that was what happened. But they presented it as if, oh, the federal government withheld the state allocation. That was not what happened. It was a local government allocation that should come directly from the federation account into the account of the local government that was withheld. So it is being executed. That is what is happening now.
Okay, now let's talk about the Fourth Republic now.
Yes.
You know, we are here in this Fourth Republic, and like we said, the Nigeria has witnessed, 26 years of uninterrupted transitioning from one civilian government to another. What's your take on that? Is that a path to development? What do you think of that?
Yes.
It's like our democracy is progressing.
Yes.
We call it a nascent democracy.
Yes.
So what do you make of that?
Our democracy is progressing, really. We are only deceiving ourselves by sharing very terrible views of our democracy. I'm not saying our politicians are saints, okay, but you won't tell me that between 1999 and now that there has not been development in Nigeria. There have been developments.
In what way? What infrastructural development?
Yes, infrastructural development. Yes, we have not experienced a boom like we experienced in the First Republic, especially in the Western region. Okay. But, my brother, we are on the path to greatness. And if we can correct some things as it is, Nigeria has a great future. If we can correct some of these things, especially as a unitary system of government, Nigeria has a great future. But nobody can tell me, yes, I have said it before, democracy has to be nurtured, and when you nurture it, it will grow. And how do you nurture it? How we nurture it is what we are doing now. How we nurture it is to educate our people to know how democracy works. See, let me tell you, many Nigerians do not know how democracy works. We do not understand the democratic process. By the time we understand the democratic process, we will begin to make demands from the people we vote for into power, especially our legislators, to push our agitations well in the House of Assembly. They will not be pushing on. Okay, look at the child marriage, whatever that was passed recently, legislation that was passed recently. That is development. Nigeria is on the path of development, because in the past, because of religious ethnocentrism and all, people can do whatever they like when it comes to child marriage. But recently, child marriage and molesting children. But recently, see what the National Assembly passed. That was progress. So,
okay, because of our time, let's talk about advocacy now. Our history particularly. You discovered that, I don't know if you agree with me, interestingly, you are from the academic settings, our history is not being taught in our schools. And maybe that is what is responsible why majority of the youth are political, because they are not familiar, they are not connected to their history. For instance, I'm aware that Gowon became head of state at the age of probably in his late 20s or early 30s. Okay, probably that will have inspired me to get involved. So what's your take on that? How can we make history as a subject compulsory in our education system at all levels?
So let me start by telling you this little story. When I was in UI, doing my masters, there were these kids I taught them English, preparing them for, I think, their junior WAEC, and I think the boy was going to SS2. But not long after that, their father is the present VC of UI. Okay. Got visa lottery that took all of them abroad. But he didn't go, but he sent his children and his wife. And when they got to the US, the firstborn was going to study medicine. They got to the US. Here in Nigeria, the father discouraged them from taking the liberal arts. Okay. But when they got to the US, they discovered that as a science student, history was compulsory for everybody. French was compulsory in some schools. The same thing with Spanish. Now, that's the problem of Nigeria. When Obi Ezekwesili was the Minister of Education and she removed history from her curriculum, then I was in UI. I saw that Nigeria just pressed, then they claimed that the reason they removed history was because they wanted to encourage integration, and so there was no need to talk about the history of what happened. What kind of a society was that? That does not want to learn from the past because we want to encourage integration. So you don't want to learn from your mistakes. You don't want to learn from even the progress of the past. Now, history is not just for us to learn about our mistakes. History is also for us to learn about our ancestors' greatness. Recently, I was reviewing the archaeological works findings from Ife. Do you know that Ife had metallurgy? Ife had glassbeads? Ife had, the bronze heads of Ife. When you saw development, Ife had ceramic pipes that used to conduct, I don't know if it was sewage, but it was discovered in Ife. Now, you will see some Nigerians, they will say, we can never be like the whites when it comes to technological development. It is because they don't know history. They didn't know that their ancestors were also great scientists and technologists who also manufactured things without meeting the Europeans. We are talking about 11th century. We're talking about the 1000s when Ife had come into these things. No, so a society that lives its history in order for national integration to be achieved is a society deceiving itself. So I will encourage our government to see how they can return history to our secondary school. Although I won't say that history is no longer in our school, because history is still being studied in the universities as our first degree, number one, and then in my department we do history and Nigerian culture as one of the GST courses.
Compulsory?
Yes, it is compulsory. It is compulsory.
Okay, thank you for sharing your views on the show this morning. You've really educated us on Nigerian history. Mrs. Titi Adegbola from the Department of General Study, Federal University of Technology. We really appreciate your coming and your contribution. Thank you so much. From what she said, that a nation or a society that neglects its history, is deceiving itself, or probably even on the path of extinction. That is it. I believe you've been well enlightened by this discussion. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll be delving into the second discussion for today. Don't go away, stay.
Was born on May 11, 1926 in Ushu, a proud community within Akure land. He has lived nearly a century of influence, service, and unshakable moral leadership. A nationalist, Awaist, teacher, and Yoruba statesman, his life reflects the enduring values of the Yoruba concept of Omoluabi, wisdom, humility, and uprightness. Though raised in Ushu, it was in Akure, the capital of Ondo State, that his legacy took deep roots. He became one of Akure's most illustrious sons, not only for his achievements, but for his principles. Fashoranti's academic journey took him from primary school in his village Ushu to Ondo Boys High School, then to Yaba Higher College, and to University College Ibadan, Nigeria's premier institution at that time. Abroad, he earned a diploma in education at the University of Hull and a master's in educational administration from Maguire University in Australia. He spent the best of his early years teaching and building schools, driven by a belief that education was the foundation for national development. He served as a teacher and principal in several schools across the Old Western region. Upon retiring from public service, he founded Omolere Nursery and Primary School, Akure High School, and St. Francis Academy, named after his late wife, Frances Awoshika. But Fashoranti was not just a classroom figure. He was a committed follower of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, a true Awoist in ideology and practice. Like Awolowo, he believed in federalism, regional development, free education, and justice. In 1979, he was appointed Ondo State Commissioner for Finance under Governor Adekunle Ajashi, another Awoist, where he helped shape fiscal policies that prioritized the people. When the June 12, 1993 election was annulled, the most credible in Nigeria's history, Fashoranti joined pro-democracy forces across Nigeria and the Yoruba nation, speaking truth to power. He was a strong pillar of the Nadeko movement in Afenifere, the platforms he used extensively to voice his resistance against military tyranny. In 2008, he became the national leader of Afenifere, where he preached unity, accountability, restructuring, and the preservation of Yoruba identity. Under his calm but firm leadership, Afenifere remained Nigeria's conscience even in turbulent times. His commitment to justice was tested in 2019 when his daughter, Mrs. Funke Olakunri, was tragically killed by suspected herdsmen on the highway. Even in grief, he chose the path of peace, calling for national reform, not revenge. In 2021, at the age of 95, he stepped aside from Afenifere leadership, demonstrating once again that power for him was never about position but about purpose. As Nigeria marked its democratic milestones, his name was never far from national praise from presidents, governors, intellectuals, and common people alike. In 2025, on his 99th birthday, he renewed his hope in Nigeria under the leadership of President Tinubu, calling it a path to progress and greatness. Today, Parube Fashoranti is not just an older statesman, he is a national symbol, a bridge between generations, a compass for Yoruba politics, and a moral voice for Nigeria's future. He represents what leadership should be, not loud but lasting, not forceful but firm, not selfish but sacrificial.
It's now you're still there with us. We are now moving to the second topical discussion for today. And Nigerian society, and especially the political landscape, defection is becoming like a norm practically. And you see politicians, changing shapes, transmuting, permit me to use that word, moving from one political party to another, all in the name of fulfilling their, ambitions and interests. And all of these moves, we always raise questions. These defections, are they all about, political ideology or just about, the selfish interest being played out? And in view of this, we are considering the topic, a gale of defection in Nigeria, a crisis of political interest. And to join us discussing this particular topic, we have Mr. Henry Olonimoyo, a social commentator and a political analyst. Mr. Henry, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Good
morning.
Yeah, ordinary Nigerians.
Okay. Maybe we should just begin with this. In standard practice, is defection really about political ideology or just satisfy political interest?
Yes, so normally when defections happen, they should happen because probably there's a clash of ideology, ideally, or
Okay.
probably where a person in a political party has discovered is being shunted or victimized. He might feel that the place is not conducive enough and that he needs to leave. But of course, in the Nigerian context, and I dare say not just Nigeria, but particularly Nigeria now, in recent years we have had defections, people who realize that their political interests will not be served in a political party, and of course, being in a party, maybe there are turmoil, they fight, they feel it makes a lot of sense to secure their political future by defecting. But again, if you look at what is happening now in our system, I think this is almost remarkable, because the speed at which the defection has happened this time around, I'm not sure we have had this scope of defections.
And this brings me to this question.
Yeah.
Why is it that Nigerian politicians defecting, these defections are always predictable and always frequent at a particular point in time? Is
Yeah.
it because of the election that is forthcoming? There will always be, massive defection in a cycle of election at a particular time. Why is it like that?
Now, so I think we are in this for me, as far as I'm concerned, is a bit peculiar,
Okay.
because if you look at some of the people who are defecting from the opposition into the ruling party,
Okay.
because what we used to have before were people leaving the ruling party, going to join the opposition,
Opposition. Okay.
and saying, see, we don't like the policy in the political party, we don't like the way they're doing, we feel that some people have hijacked power and are running it for themselves. That's even more a bit altruistic, and people want to align along. But what we are saying is that people are heading towards the ruling
The
party.
ruling party.
You have a second-term governor who is defecting, and you want to ask, why is he defecting? And so, and when you see this, it also means that you have had an election in 2023 where, for instance, the National Assembly as it was composed, there were people who there's a party with a majority and has certain number of seats. Now, without doing any election, that party now has overwhelming majority in that National Assembly. And we need to ask ourselves, this is not how politics should be played, especially because now we are now at the height of political cycle fancy. Everybody wants to appear to be in favor with the government at the center. But as you see, if we want our politics and our democracy to be deepened and want it to be where it should be, you might be my friend and you are not being in the same political party as I am. I should be able to respectfully differ with you when it comes to serious issues. And after we have differed and we have debated it, we can meet outside and share a cup of tea.
Okay, now, you made mention of the fact that some governors now, seeking second term, are leaving their party, now moving to the party at the central. Does that suggest that the opposition party is no longer working or is dead, and at some point the so-called governors are now looking for political survival? Is that the case?
Now, for some of us, we predicted it. I predicted it after the 2023 election.
Okay.
That looking at the style of operation of Mr. President, that I foresee that you will have a lot of people from the opposition moving into the ruling party. I think people who know him or who understand the way he plays politics should not be truly surprised that this is happening. Again, you also know that the class of governors we have today are not what governors used to be years ago. We had governors who literally opposed the president. Even Mr. President himself, when he was a governor in Lagos State, was the last man standing in AD. And he withstood the president. You had even the area when Atiku was withstanding Obasanjo as a VP, and you had other governors who were joining him. You could see literally governors holding their ground against the president. But today we are in an era where a sitting governor will tell his political appointees that anytime you are wearing native and you are coming for the state executive council, all of you must be sitting on a cap bearing the logo of Mr. President. And for me, it's psychophancy at the highest. You have the president coming to the National Assembly to address the National Assembly, and the lawmakers are all singing political songs. No, that is for me. Even if you are going to support Mr. President, for the optics at least, try and appear as if you are a different arm of government and that you have independence. Why do we all fall like pack of cards? And when you see this kind of political psychopathy at its highest, governance and quality of governance will be sacrificed, because there will be no check and balances as we should have it. Then of course mediocrity would be trumped up. Then again, there's also the angle that this ruling party that people are defecting into, there are party members there who have probably sacrificed a thing or two for the party, who lost in the last election, who are probably thinking that they will stand a chance to come out and run in this next election, not having their direct opponent in the last election coming to meet them in the political party. So now, what now happens? Are they going to be asked again to step down for those? How does that portray our democracy? And again, if you look now across board, most of the elections we're having, it appears that the only glue that is holding all of them together, even in the ruling party, is Mr. President. Is that everybody believes what unites all of them is for his mandate. Outside Mr. President, some of them are like cat and dog. You have it in Ondo State playing out. Different support groups.
Now let's talk about from the positionality of national development now. Can we really identify or spot genuine differences in terms of ideologies among the major political parties in Nigeria?
So yes, ideology has been a problem for us. I think the last time we can be talking of kind of ideology in our political space was during the area of the post-independence and the early democratic journey in the midst of the military era. I mean, when I talk of AG, NPC, these parties had clear ideology.
NCNC.
Yes, and by the time the AG metamorphosed into UPN, and you also had NPN, you knew what UPN stood for. Even across the UPN controlled states, you knew how they were all on the same page when it came to free education, wealth for all, Afenifere as they call it. Their priority for agriculture and agro-processing. It was across board. You could see it. You could see a clear identity. But I think post-military era, after the end of the military era, the advent of democracy in 1999, that all those ideology has been wiped out. It appears now that the people in Party A at some point have moved to Party B, and at some point again they have gone back to Party A again, with thereby wiping any kind of distinction as far as it's concerned. Then again, you ask yourself, the political electorates, the electorates who want to vote, are they even really interested in listening to ideology? Today you can accuse political party officials that why are they not ideological? Do people today, and when I talk of the politicians at the grassroots, I'm not talking of the elected governors and lawmakers, the politicians at the grassroots, those ones who fight at the ward level and polling, you think they want to hear anything about the ideology again? It's gone. The quality of conversation has dropped, and that's why we're having this psychophancy that we're having again. And so if we would have political ideology again, then we must have an electorate that is ready to entertain ideology.
Now, should defectors, in case of defecting, should they lose their seat, or maybe political officials? What's the Constitution even saying about that? Is there a measure to stop a sitting politician from moving to another party, given the fact that he got the mandate from a party?
So for as it stands today in the Constitution is heavy for legislators. That when they decamp, except for cases where it is due to disarray or a factional crisis in the party, except for that case, the Constitution is clear on that. But that clearly did not happen in Rivers State. But for executive office positions like governor, the Constitution is not specific on that. And I believe that we need to introduce this in. We need to introduce this in because, see, the way we are practicing this democracy, one day we'll wake up and will not recognize what we have as democracy again. We will not recognize it. Because all these defections, behind the scenes, there are some political horse trading that has taken place for these defections to happen. Many things were sacrificed, and I dare say that good governance was sacrificed. And if you are not careful, public resources of the people must have also gone into these negotiations, which in the long run will not bode well for the living standard of the people.
So now let's talk. How do we now build, our internal democracy? To detail, build it, because the way it's going now is like politicians are seeing political party as a platform for fulfilling their political ambitions. Then how do we now build this to start seeing parties as platform for service rather than interest?
So I think we must first strengthen democratic institutions, and I think firstly you look at the INEC, for instance, has to be properly strengthened so that it's completely independent. See, because the entry,
is INEC not independent?
It's not completely independent.
In what? Okay, not complete. In what way?
No. As it stands today, the president appoints the INEC chairman. The president appoints national commissioners. The president appoints the state resident electoral commissioners. And as it stands today, the INEC chairman does not have power over his national commissioners and his rec. They can decide to go AWOL, and they can, under the law, he doesn't have any power to reprimand them.
Is that the case?
That's the case. That's Jega said it on national television, because they were not appointed by him. And so when you have an institution like that, that is not strengthened properly, because the entry point into democracy is elections. If we do not solidify that, then people will make a mockery of it. Number two, political parties. We need to go back to how can political parties be strengthened? How can they be financed properly, so that political parties are not for cash and carry? For me, it's not cash and carry for those who have, for the money bags who just want. Today you have a situation where Mr. Governor is Mr. Governor, and because he's Mr. Governor, he's the leader of the party in the state, and he literally handpicks the chairman and the secretary, and in 24 hours time, if he wants to remove the chairman, he can remove the chairman. So we must go back to the supremacy of the party. If we really want to strengthen democracy and deepen democracy.
Not necessarily the Mr. Governor becoming the leader of the party.
No, he doesn't need to.
Okay.
Because there's a party hierarchy. And they can call him to order. They should be able. That this is our ideology. You are straying away
and
from
how can
it.
we achieve that?
Sponsored you into this.
How
position.
can that be achieved?
No, we must look at the legal framework.
Okay.
And where we need to balance it out, we need to balance it out. See, if we are not deliberately trying to weaken the power of money in our polity, our politics will be for sale 24/7. And the more your politics is for sale, the more the dregs of society, the elites of society would have their mainstay in your politics. If we are not doing that, I mean, there was a time even in 1993, El-Rufai was saying that he wanted to vie for, they had put his name as a minister, and that PDP set up a committee within the party to interrogate those that will be picked as ministers. So they had an internal auditing,
okay.
Even before the National Assembly audited them.
Right.
Today, somebody can become minister, commissioner, and the party is not even aware.
That's not aware.
It's not aware. And by the time he goes to the National Assembly, they look at him, they say, take a bow.
Now, looking at this scale of defection now, is massive at this point in time.
Yeah.
What is the implication on governance and as well progress in national progress as a whole?
Yeah, so some people say it does not have any implications. It has serious implications as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
There used to be a time even within the party when a governor is not operating right, even his fellow governors who are in the same party will summon the courage to tell him the truth. But today, with all of this gale of defections and the rest, it's all about covering and masking all these things so that we just get re-elected. And if the goal of politics is just about winning election, the reality stares us in the face. The quality of life of the people, the quality of our infrastructure, our economy. It tells us that something is wrong with the way we are playing our politics. So that's the implication number one. Is cutting the cost of, it's messing up with the quality of governance. Again, it's increasing the cost of governance.
In what way?
Because now of course, in a situation where the governor has come in, is defected, and finally gets elected, he might need to have an over-bloated cabinet to compensate all that people that need to be compensated.
Vectors, okay.
I mean, now we've had enough in this country. Now we've had a governor appoint over 100 aides, 200 aides. We have had 500 aides. There's nothing more. We have not. I think we did over 1,000 plus when he was governor of Rivers State. So just to compensate people, even they don't have offices, just put them on the payroll. That's where we are. And then mediocrity will be the order of the day. That's what. And I believe that when we go down this route, then again, there's also the risk of serious eat within parties. For instance, APC appears to be swallowing and eating everything, but these things run the
causing
system.
internal rancor.
No, because when you start swallowing everything, you would have indigestion soon. And the party, the way it's doing it, and it appears that everybody just seems to be playing along
with
till
it because of the Mr. President.
Till just let Mr. President just be true. And by the time it's true, there might be crisis, serious crisis.
Now, what's the connection between this defection and apathy? Can we actually connect the two?
There could be a connection,
Okay.
and because democracy must constantly provide multiplicity of choices for the people. Multiplicity, that is, the average electorate must be able to have choices to pick from. So if we shrink the political space and we are more or less leaving just one viable option for the people to vote for, some might just say, see, I'm not even coming out to vote. And see, don't also forget that if you look at some other African countries, I think I was seeing a breaking news last week, Benin Republic disqualified one presidential candidate, something like that happened in Cote d'Ivoire. If you're not careful, the way we're practicing democracy in Africa, we are shrinking the democratic space so that they can just say we did election and we are practicing democracy. So it has its serious problems for us, and it's leading to voter apathy. Now many people don't want to come out to vote, but I say it's still on still, no matter the amount of governors who are defecting. The truth is, ultimately, the people who decide who wins election, I mean, what the factor that defines who wins election are the people. A governor can defect. If the people don't vote for him, he's out. It doesn't count much, as far as I'm concerned.
So on a final note now,
Yeah.
what reform do you think we can inject into the system to strengthening democracy and a party system?
So there must be sincerity across board from all the political actors. Lest we have a time now when Mr. President, after he has completed his tenure and the rest, he now wants to be lecturing us again post office, and start telling us how the leaders at that time now must now do right. And people will say that you, under your own time, you shrink the space. So there must be sincerity across board. We must look at our laws again and see how we want to deliberately strengthen democracy and deliberately ensure our democracy is not for sale. And then ensure that we are vocal like we are doing now on issues like this. And ensure that we take time to painstakingly educate the electorate on the need. This is because people must be enlightened to educate the next generation. I mean, when I say the next generation, I don't know what is happening about history being taught in school, civic education, so that the next generation can see that this is how politics should be done, this is what democracy should be. If not, already those of them are there now. It's like it's a lost cause already. We can't begin to change them and orientate them. But the coming generation, so they're educated on how things are. If we introduce all of those things, introduce it to our schools, then in a matter of years, we can start having politicians who are imagining who want to play by the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Henry Olonimoyo, for your time. He's a political analyst and a social commentator. And that's the size of the show this morning. You agree with me that it has been a very interesting and engaging journey so far, from the gale of defection to reflecting on our history on the path of development. I believe you have been well enlightened. We return next week with another exciting edition, and do well to also follow us on all our social media platforms with the handles displayed on the screen to get the conversations going. Alex Adejo is my name. Wishing you a productive week. Goodbye for now.